In 1990, Homer Simpson supported a family of five, owned a four-bedroom home with a garage, two cars, and even managed to take his family on vacations, all on a single income from a job that required no college degree. He was incompetent, lazy, and reckless, yet he lived a life of middle-class abundance that today feels like a fantasy. Fast forward to today. Frank Grimes, Homer's hardworking, reality-based counterpart, needs two master's degrees, a side hustle, and a spouse working full-time just to afford the rent on Homer's garage. We laugh at the memes, but the math behind this cultural shift is terrifying. You aren't imagining it. The game didn't just get harder, the rules were rewritten entirely. The American dream has been replaced by a mathematical trap designed to consume two incomes while leaving you with less financial freedom than a factory worker had 50 years ago. You did everything right. You went to college, you built a career, you found a partner, you combined your paychecks. So why are you drowning in debt? Why does a household earning six figures feel like it's one bad week away from poverty? Welcome to the two-income trap. And today, I'm going to show you the ruthless math that proves why working twice as hard has actually made you poor. Let's start by destroying a myth. We have been sold a story that two incomes are better than one. It seems mathematically obvious, right? If one person earns $50,000, two people earn $100,000. You should be twice as rich. You should have double the safety. You should be swimming in savings. But if you look at the bankruptcy data, the exact opposite is true. Families with two incomes are statistically more likely to go broke than the single-income families of the 1970s. How is that possible? How can having more money make you more vulnerable? To understand this paradox, we have to look at the structure of the American family in 1970. I'm not talking about the social dynamics. I'm talking about the economics. In the typical middle-class household of that era, you had one breadwinner and one stay-at-home parent. That single income was enough to buy a median-priced home, a car, health insurance, and groceries. But here is the secret weapon that family had. A weapon that you probably don't. They had a backup generator. The stay-at-home parent wasn't just managing the household, they were a walking, talking insurance policy. If the primary earner got sick, lost their job, or the economy crashed, the other parent could step into the workforce. It wasn't ideal, but it was a massive safety buffer. They were operating their financial life at 50% capacity, meaning they always had 50% reserve power ready to deploy in an emergency. Now, look at your life today. In the modern economy, that safety buffer is gone. Both parents are working. You are operating your household at 100% capacity just to pay the bills. The emergency backup income has already been activated, not to save you from a crisis, but just to pay the mortgage on a standard Tuesday. If one of you loses a job, gets a cancer diagnosis, or needs to care for an aging parent, you don't have a backup generator to turn on. The lights just go out. You have zero margin, and this is where the trap begins. We assume that adding a second income adds wealth, but we forget to subtract the massive hidden costs of earning that income. We see the gross number on the tax return, but we ignore the net reality in the bank account. I want you to pause and be honest with yourself. If you are part of a dual income couple, you probably view that second salary as your ticket to wealth. You think, well, my partner brings in $50,000, that's huge. But is it? Let's run the numbers that your bank doesn't want you to see. Let's take a hypothetical couple, Mark and Sarah. Mark makes $70,000. Sarah makes $50,000. Combined, that's $120,000. On paper, they are crushing it. But let's trace every single dollar of Sarah's extra $50,000 income to see what it actually contributes to the household. First, the tax man. The government's tax brackets are progressive. This means the first dollars you earn are taxed at a low rate, but the last dollars you earn are taxed at the highest rate. Sarah's income sits right on top of Mark's. It doesn't get the standard deduction. Mark's income used that up. It doesn't get the lower brackets. It gets hit immediately with the highest marginal tax rate. When you combine federal income tax, state income tax, Social Security, and Medicare, you are likely losing 30% to 35% of that money before it even hits the direct deposit. So, that $50,000 is immediately cut down to about $33,000. Next, the childcare tax. In 1970, childcare cost $0 because mom was home. Today, if both of you work, you have to outsource the raising of your children. The average cost of daycare in the United States is roughly $15,000 per child per year. In major hubs like New York, Boston, or San Francisco, you are looking at $25,000 or more. But let's be conservative. Let's say Mark and Sarah have just one kid in an average daycare. That's $15,000 gone. Sarah's contribution is now down from $33,000 to $18,000. Then, the commute. You cannot work from home forever, and even hybrid work has costs. A second job means a second car. That means a second car payment, second insurance premium, gas, tires, oil changes, and depreciation. The AAA estimates the average cost to own and operate a vehicle is over $10,000 a year. But let's be generous. Let's say they drive an old Toyota and keep costs to $5,000. Sarah's contribution is now down to $13,000. And finally, the hidden killer, the convenience tax. This is the cost of exhaustion. When two people work 40 to 50 hours a week, plus commute, domestic labor doesn't disappear. It just gets outsourced or becomes more expensive. You are too tired to cook on Tuesday, so you order DoorDash. That's $50. You are too tired to clean on Saturday, so you hire a service twice a month. That's $300. You buy pre-cut vegetables, dry cleaning services, and pay for convenience at every turn because you are time poor. Conservative estimate? That's another $5,000 to $7,000 a year evaporated. Now, let's do the final subtraction. $50,000 gross income, minus taxes, minus daycare, minus the car, minus the exhaustion costs. You are left with roughly $6,000. For the entire year, divide that by 52 weeks, and you are netting about $115 a week. Divide that by a 40-hour work week, and your second income is effectively paying you less than $3 an hour. Think about that. You are stressing yourself out, missing your children's first steps, sitting in traffic, dealing with office politics, and burning out your marriage for $3 an hour. And in some cases, if you have two kids in daycare or live in a high-tax state, that number is actually negative. You are literally paying for the privilege of going to work. Now, you might be screaming at the screen right now, but we don't spend that much on convenience. We are frugal. It doesn't matter, because the trap isn't just about your personal choices. It's about the system you are forced to compete in. This is the part that Elizabeth Warren discovered in her groundbreaking research on bankruptcy. She asked a simple question: where did all the money go? It didn't go to clothes. It didn't go to appliances, refrigerators, and TVs are cheaper now than ever before. It didn't go to food relative to inflation. Food is cheaper too. It went to three things: housing, education, and healthcare. Here is the economic mechanism that screwed the middle class: the bidding war. When women entered the workforce en masse, family income doubled. Suddenly, families had twice as much money to bid on houses. But here is the problem. The supply of good houses in good school districts remained relatively constant. You can print money, but you can't print land in desirable neighborhoods. So, what happens when everyone has twice as much money to bid on the same number of houses? The prices don't stay the same. They double. It sparked an arms race. Families weren't using their second income to get richer. They were using it just to outbid other families for a spot in the middle class. To get your kid into a safe school, you have to buy a house in that specific zip code. To buy a house in that zip code, you have to compete against Mark and Sarah, who have two incomes. So, to win the house, you need two incomes too. It's a zero-sum game. In 1970, a single-income family could buy a modest three-bedroom house. Today, it takes two full-time incomes to buy that exact same house. You aren't getting twice the house. You aren't getting twice the education. You are paying twice the price for the exact same standard of living your parents had on one salary. The second income didn't buy you freedom. It was absorbed by the housing market. It evaporated into the ether of inflation. And the result? A generation of families who are house poor and time poor simultaneously. We have stripped the gears of our social engine. We are running the machine at maximum RPMs just to stay in the same place. But the trap goes deeper than just housing prices. It's psychological. Because the gross numbers look big. Because you see that $120,000 or $150,000 on your tax return, you feel wealthy. You make spending decisions based on that combined number. The bank looks at your combined income and says, "Congratulations, you qualify for a $3,500 monthly mortgage payment." The car dealership looks at your combined income and says, "Sure, you can afford two $600 car payments." And because you are optimistic, because you believe in your career, you say yes. You lock yourself into fixed monthly costs that require 100% of both incomes to service. This is what creates the golden handcuffs. You live in a nice house. You drive nice cars. From the outside, you look like a success story. But inside, you are paralyzed by fear. You know that you cannot quit. You cannot take a break. You cannot pivot careers. You cannot start a business. You have built a life that is so expensive, it requires your absolute, unwavering servitude to maintain. This is why the two-income trap is so dangerous. It masks insolvency as prosperity. In the 1970s, if a family ran out of money, they cut back on vacations. Today, if a dual-income family runs out of money, they lose the house. The single-income family of the past had flexibility. They had margin. They could absorb a shock. The modern dual-income family is like a race car driving at 200 miles per hour with bald tires. Everything is fine until you hit a pebble. Then, the crash is total and catastrophic. So, is it hopeless? Should we all just quit our jobs and move into a van down by the river? No, that's not practical. But if you want to escape the trap, you need a radical shift in strategy. You need to stop playing the game by the system's rules and start playing by your own. The solution is a concept I call the one income foundation. It's a simple rule, but it requires massive discipline. You must structure your fixed, non-negotiable expenses to fit on one salary. I'm talking about your mortgage or rent, your car payments, your insurance, and your basic utilities. These must-haves need to be covered by the primary earner's check alone. I can hear you screaming, but that's impossible. We can't afford a house in our city on one income. Then you can't afford that house. I know that sounds harsh. It sounds unfair. But listen to me carefully. If you buy a house that requires two incomes to service the debt, you are signing a contract that says neither of us is allowed to lose our job, get sick, or take a break for the next 30 years. That is a suicide pact. You have to be willing to make the trade-off that your neighbors won't make. Maybe it means living in a smaller house. Maybe it means living in a slightly less prestigious neighborhood. Maybe it means driving a 10-year-old Honda instead of leasing a new Tesla. But here's what you get in return. When you right-sized your life to one income, the second income transforms. It stops being a survival mechanism and starts being a wealth-building machine. If you live on one income, the second income becomes 100% discretionary. You can use it to max out your 401k and IRA. You can use it to pay off a 30-year mortgage in 7 years. You can use it to build an emergency fund that lasts for 2 years, not 2 weeks. But more importantly, you buy back your freedom. When your fixed costs are low, you have options. If your boss becomes toxic, you can quit without having a panic attack. If you want to take a career risk, one of you can support the family while the other builds a business. If you have a baby and want to stay home for 2 years, you can. If you need to take care of a sick parent, you can. That is true wealth. Wealth isn't the number on your paycheck. Wealth isn't the brand on your car. Wealth is the ability to say no. We are living in an economic environment that is hostile to the middle class. The system is designed to extract every dollar of efficiency from you. It encourages you to borrow the maximum amount, buy the biggest house, and run your life with zero slack. Don't fall for it. The banks want you leveraged. The car dealerships want you financing. The real estate agents want you stretching. Because that is how they make money. They make money on your lack of margin. The Joneses down the street, the ones with the new SUV and the perfect lawn, they are broke. They are drowning in debt, they are sleep deprived, and they are terrified. Stop trying to keep up with them. Be the weirdo. Be the family that lives below their means. Be the couple that drives the old car. Reclaim your margin. Because in a world that is increasingly chaotic, margin is the only safety net you have left. The two-income trap is real, but it is not inevitable. It is a choice. A hard choice, but a choice nonetheless. Now, I want you to do something uncomfortable. Tonight, sit down with your partner and look at your budget. Ask the scary question. If one of us lost our job tomorrow, how many months could we survive? If the answer is less than 6 months, you are in the trap, and it's time to start plotting your escape. If this video gave you a new perspective on your money, hit that subscribe button. We are building a community of people who are opting out of the rat race, and I want you with us. Thanks for watching, and remember, it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you keep and how well you sleep at night.